Hey there gardeners, Chris from Garden Setting here today. I wanted to talk about putting in a little pepino. I have honestly not heard of this before. I haven't even seen it recommended in any videos online, which is unusual. Solanum muricatum, subtropical fruit, similar to a rock melon, but obviously much smaller, small bush, meter tall, similar to a capsicum, to give you a point of reference. Flowers, fruit on a young 1 to 1.5 year old plant, and so you do need to replace these plants frequently, but I guess that's not too much of an issue. I believe I think, and I'm hopefully not remembering this from something else, you can just put a cutting in and grow another one from it, so should be right. Flavor, like a juicy rock melon, kind of like a cross between a berry and a rock melon, I guess. And fertile, moist soils, full sun. I've had a lot of issues in this garden bed. We had a golden raspberry up in that corner. It's dead, as you can see. Behind me, we had a little kiwi berry vine, not a kiwi fruit vine, a kiwi berry vine, which was a bit more similar to this style of plant, but a bit more viney. And it died as well. I think I just didn't give them enough water, which was totally on me. This time, I've got one of these little clay watering spikes, which we're going to give a go to and see if that helps keep the plant hydrated without needing to use a huge amount of water, which is a concern because we got to the point where we were running out of water. We haven't got full tanks put in yet, so we're on very, very limited water indeed. We have just had a week of really good rain though, so I thought I'd give this a try. It doesn't get to freezing temperatures here, so that shouldn't be an issue. It says best in warm climates, 5 degrees Celsius. And yeah, feed in spring, low nitrogen, light dusting of lime appreciated, which is interesting. And then mulch well, which is what I've been trying to do, mainly to keep the amount of moisture in the garden beds in the garden bed. So, as you can see, it needs a trellis. And the large fruit are off the ground, so obviously some support there. Replace plants every 2 to 3 years, so keep that in mind. 1 by 1 meter, hopefully that'll give you a little bit of an idea of what it looks like. And all I'm going to do is chuck it in the corner here. This garden bed, the one thing I will say about it is, unlike all my other garden beds, because it's running down the hill, digging it in would have been really quite deep at the back end, and I didn't want to interrupt the macadamia above us's roots anymore. And so this garden bed hasn't been doing that well. The strawberries are soldiering on, not that amazingly. So the pepino will be basically a bit of a tester to see whether this garden bed is a bit of a write-off, which may just be the case because of the location, me not being able to get enough water in it. And maybe I just got a bit unlucky with that real hot, dry period. But that's the norm in Australia. So yeah, it's a little bit hard to work out. Obviously, this is the first kind of season I've been here doing this, so it's all a learning experience. That is actually looking a bit on the dry side already. And I'll grab some sea salt when I put that in. Got some gloves somewhere here. The soil's actually a bit on the compacted side, so I'm gonna go grab a shovel just to break it up a bit. Maybe that was a contributing issue previously, but I'm not too sure. Okay, hand shovel. So this was a soil delivery that obviously I just filled the bed with, but the soil is super compacted in this bed for some reason. I'm not 100% sure why, but obviously from what I've read, disturbing the soil hugely is not an ideal kind of thing to do, but this seems a little bit too compacted. And actually, looking at it, we've had 40, maybe 50 mil of rain in the last week, and this is pretty dry. So I would actually say probably not enough moisture is getting into this, and I'll probably need to give the bed as a whole a really good water. This was a new bed that went in summer. Everything else went in spring and got lots and lots of rainfall. So I feel like they absorbed a lot more moisture. And particularly with a lot of those, I didn't cover them in mulch immediately until we got some really good rain. So I may have just made basically a boo-boo here and starved this garden bed of moisture. And if I was still in the city, I would have just put the hose on the garden bed and run it for, 10 or 15 minutes and really soaked it through. But, obviously being out in the country and being a bit worried about drinking water, let alone plant water, this garden bed obviously didn't get what it was needed. We've just had the huge downpour. I think we're meant to have some more big downpours. So I'm actually going to use a bit of the water that we've caught specifically for the garden on this garden bed. And we'll see how we go. Because obviously it's a little bit better on the moisture front up here, but that raspberry still absolutely didn't make it. And I'm just hoping if I do this, I can get some water in. And this is the cheap version of an Ola, I think it is. And hopefully if I put that in with this, alongside getting this bed just set up a little bit better, it'll give us the moisture we need. And because, yeah, I feel like all of these roots probably were from our kiwi berry. And it was just, it dried right out. And yeah, the kiwi berry as a result didn't survive. Totally on me. My wife actually got me a new kiwi berry because we really want to give that a go. I'm gonna put it in somewhere else. I'm kind of tempted of taking out the loganberry up there because it's doing nothing. It's not doing well at all. And maybe chucking the kiwi berry in there. And I am wondering a little bit whether to put some shade cloth along this fence here to maybe reduce the sun. The funny thing is, it's morning sun from over here, and then I have a feeling maybe the afternoon or the day sun is coming through. This is kind of a protected spot, which is part of the reason I chose it, because this is sun, full sun I think, but the kiwi berry is full sun, part shade, and I thought that was a good compromise, but as I said, obviously wrong. So we got that in the ground now. Actually, I got to remember this spike. Try not to fill it with dirt and get it pretty flush with the ground. And once I give this garden bed a really good water, I'll put a heap more mulch on it, and hopefully that'll do the trick. So that's the pepino in the ground, and I'll give you a really quick look at something a little bit more exciting as far as something I've actually got working, which is we've got some like miniature pumpkins and we've got some watermelons, and those are going really, really well. So okay, I do need to be a little bit careful here because I've got the pumpkin, which is suffering from sooty mold, and I'm gonna try the milk solution on it and see how we go with that. And we've got a little pumpkin here. Now these are like a miniature pumpkin, just to give you an idea. So the Jack Be Little heirloom pumpkin, 14-week harvest. How are we going? How big do they get? When the stalk turns woody, cut from the vine, leave 3 centimetre stalk. It's definitely gone woody. Obviously they don't get much bigger than this kind of size here. And I think and I'm gonna let my wife harvest that one because I will be in real deep trouble otherwise, because these are her little babies. Yeah, I believe these, you can have them as like a cup of soup, pumpkin soup obviously, in the pumpkin as a pretty cool little thing. So we've got about, I think 5 or 6 going really, really well. And again, it's doing well. The sooty mold is an issue that I'm gonna need to tackle because it's so humid here, and generally it's been dry, apparently that's even worse than it being wet and humid. And so we have been having some issues, even in this really sunny spot, as you can see here. I would have thought the sun would kill off the sooty mold, but not at all. So let's have a look at the pumpkin. Not the pumpkin, the watermelon, which is the thing that I really think is cool. We do have some little watermelon vines growing here, and that's a yellow watermelon, but we've actually had one in for a fair bit longer that's got some fruit growing on it. So as you can see there, we've got one of our watermelons. Let's see if I can. Hopefully that gives you an idea of the size. There is actually another one just over there, as you can see, that I hadn't even realized was growing. My wife spotted that one. I'm pretty good at spotting the pests, and she's pretty good at spotting the food. So it's a good combo. So there you go.